गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यमुनातीरवनचारी यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस AC भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। एकादशी महाव्रत की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Grantraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 30, Text 28. Thank you. Etāvat tvam hi vibhubhir bhāvyam dīneshu vatsalaih yad anusmaryate kāle sva-buddhyābhadra-randhana etāvat tvam hi vibhubhir bhāvyam dīneshu vatsalaih yad anusmaryate kāle sva-buddhyābhadra-randhana etāvat tvam hi vibhubhir bhāvyam dīneshu vatsalaih yad anusmaryate kāle sva-buddhyābhadra-randhana. Ladies, please. Etāvat, thus, tvam, your lordship, he, certainly, vibhubhir, by expansions, bhāvyam, to be conceived, dīneshu, unto the humble devotees, vatsalaih, compassionate, yat, which, anusmaryate, is always remembered, kāle, in due course of time, sva-buddhyābhadra, by one's devotional service, abhadra-randhana, O killer of all inauspiciousness. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Dear Lord, you are the killer of all inauspicious things. You are compassionate upon your poor devotees through the expansion of your arcā-vigraha. You should certainly think of us as your eternal servants. Purport. The form of the Lord known as arcā-vigraha is an expansion of his unlimited potencies. When the Lord is gradually satisfied with the service of a devotee, in due course of time, he accepts the devotee as one of his many unalloyed servants. By nature, the Lord is very compassionate. Therefore, the service of the neophyte devotees is accepted by the Lord. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparhutam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit or water, I will accept it. The devotee offers eatables in the form of vegetables, fruits, leaves, and watering the arcā-vigraha. The Lord, being vatsalaih, compassionate upon his devotees, accepts these offerings. Atheists may think that devotees are engaged in idol worship, but the fact is different. Janardana, the Supreme Lord, accepts bhava, the attitude of service. The neophyte devotee engaged in the worship of the Lord may not understand the value of such worship, but the Supreme Lord, being vatsalaih, accepts his devotee and in due course of time takes him home. In this connection, there is a story about a Brahmana who was offering sweet rice to the Lord within his mind. The Brahmana had no money nor any means of worshipping the deity, but within his mind he arranged everything nicely. He had gold pots to bring water from the sacred rivers to wash the deity, and he offered the deity very sumptuous food, including sweet rice. Once before he offered the sweet rice, he thought that it was too hot, and he thought, oh, let me test it. My, it is very hot. When he put his finger in the sweet rice to test it, his finger was burned and his meditation broken. Although he was offering food to the Lord within his mind, the Lord accepted it nonetheless. Consequently, the Lord in Vaikuntha immediately sent a chariot to bring the Brahmana back home, back to Godhead. Thus, it is the duty of every sincere devotee to accept the arcā-vigraha at home or in the temple and worship the form of the Lord as advised in authorized scriptures and directed by the spiritual master. Om ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chaksurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The form of Krishna is not material. It is fully transcendental, and it remains transcendental regardless of circumstance. Yet, the form is such that it can easily be misunderstood. Because his form is very human-like, it is often misunderstood as human. Mudhoyam nabhijanati. Mudha means foolish or ignorant. And ignorance specifically means one who doesn't understand the transcendental nature of Krishna. They may be very educated from a worldly perspective, but they remain a mudha from a spiritual perspective. And that mudha-ness, a part of the mudha-ness is, it's not an English word, mudha-ness, but you get the idea. Part of being a mudha is not only are they ignorant, but they want to remain ignorant. There are two categories of mudhas: the innocent mudhas and the stubborn mudhas. The ignorant mudhas can be changed because they're innocent, they don't know. And the stubborn mudhas, try as much as you want, they don't budge. Prabhupada would say, it is easy to wake someone who's asleep, but it is impossible to wake a person who is pretending to be asleep. So this stubborn mudha means pretending to be asleep. That pretense is covered by arrogance or conceit, that I know. The first principles of knowledge, any person who's knowledgeable, the very first characteristic that they will have is that they don't know everything. And the first characteristic of foolishness is that they think they know everything. This is the difference between a fool and a pandita. It is said that a person who thinks of himself as a fool is a pandit, and a fellow who thinks of himself as a pandit is a fool. That's why it is said that, I think this is George Bernard Shaw, not that he's a pandit or something, but he said it nicely. He said, I would rather let people think of me as stupid than to open my mouth and remove all doubt. Because as soon as the fool speaks, his foolishness is fully demonstrated. Therefore, in the Vedic culture, the practice was to not speak unnecessarily. Because the moment someone spoke, there was a full disclosure of their foolishness. It's like, wow, how ignorant is this person? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta quotes this story, and I've been itching to share this story, so this is the perfect opportunity. In a village, there was a very arrogant, so-called self-proclaimed scholar. And that self-proclaimed scholar, went about his business being very puffed up. So there was one gentle soul who really wanted to help this puffed up fellow. This puffed up fellow's name was Dada Thakur. Dada in Bengali means older brother. So Dada Thakur So this saintly person, this gentle person thought, maybe if he meets a real sadhu, then maybe some change will come in this person's heart. So he said to Dada Thakur, maybe you should hear from such and such saintly person, we can invite him here. So it was agreed that this sadhu can be invited. But Dada Thakur was feeling a little uncomfortable, or his followers were feeling uncomfortable. So they went to Dada Thakur and said, oh, Dada Thakur, what if this scholar comes and he says something, or this saintly person, sadhu, so-called sadhu, will say something, then I'm afraid of what will happen. So Dada Thakur said, don't worry. I will speak to this whoever in such chaste Sanskrit that he will become completely bewildered and he will go away. So all of Dada Thakur's followers became very relieved. Dada Thakur ki jai. This is very nice, very nice. So the date of debate was decided upon, and the sadhu came to the village, and when he came to that particular place of the arena for discussion, he saw Dada Thakur sitting on this big stage, all like that, and all his followers surrounding him. So this sadhu asked Dada Thakur, Kastvam. In Sanskrit, Kastvam means, who are you? Meaning, please tell me about yourself. So Dada Thakur said, Kastvam, Kastvam, Gastvam, Dhastvam, Dastvam, Jastvam, Grastvam. So the saintly person turned around and walked away. And all of Dada Thakur's followers said, Jai Dada Thakur, Jai Dada Thakur. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes that this is the nature of a fool. Okay, he just yelled out some words that don't mean anything. And all of his foolish followers also said, whoa, what a fantastic, just for one word, he gave so many words that sounded just like that, with such emphasis, and also different connotations, how deep those meanings must be. And the saint walked away because the saint realized there's no use talking to this fool. He's not going to change. Because the first word, kastvam, means who are you? And the right answer for that is gopi bharturu padakamalayur dasa dasa anudasa. Who are you? I'm no one, but I am a servant of the servant of the servant of the maintainer of the gopis. That's the right answer. And he only said kastvam, gastvam, all these fancy words that didn't mean anything. So the saint walked away. So this is the stubborn Muda type who don't want to understand. But to help everyone within this material world, because everyone is some category of Muda, covered by ignorance, the Lord appears within matter. Although he is fully spiritual, he appears within matter so that our blunt senses can perceive him. On one hand, the principle is true, Ata Sri Krishna Nama Adi Na Bhaved Ghrayam Indriyar, that with our blunt senses, we cannot understand Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes. It's just too difficult. Not just difficult, it's impossible. Na bhavet grahyam. We think we might understand. A lot of people say, I know Krishna. I know about this. I know about that. Oh yeah, I also do this. I also do that. But without any sense of understanding, because the senses are very blunt. But Krishna reveals himself to a person who has an attitude of service. In this purport, Prabhupada gives that phrase, attitude of service, bhāvyam. He says, the Lord accepts the bhava, the attitude of service. That means properly intended. So the arcā-vigraha, arcā means that which is worshipable. or that which is worshipped. Of course, the Lord is always worshipable. But because our blunt senses cannot perceive Him, we don't know how to worship. If there was no arcā-vigraha, the Mayavadi style will be to throw flower everywhere and say, I'm worshipping. That's not proper. Or the danger is there is God everywhere, so you can worship anything and everything. So on one flower to the chair, one flower to the speaker, one flower, not to the speaker, the speaker. At least if it is given to the speaker, there is some benefit. Like yesterday's lecture, that there is benefit in serving the Vaishnava. So this is to this, to that, and everything is worshipable. This is not correct also. Or they accept anything and everything as God. But they will also justify meat eating. They'll worship the chicken differently. This is not correct. So the blunt senses need a form of the Lord that is accessible. So He appears within stone, within metal, within wood, within water, within gems, within paint, within earth, and within the mind. And all of these are accepted arcā-vigrahas. The form of Krishna is not a concocted, something good-looking form that someone created. It is a form of Krishna when it is properly carved, but more importantly, when requested by the Acharya to come reside within that form. So there is what we call installation. There are two types of installation. One is installation by proper mantras, by the request of an Acharya, and the whole Vedic process. It's called nyasa and all of that, mantras. Another is called prema. Just by lovingly worshipping the deity, Krishna reciprocates or resides within that deity form. In temples, both methods are used. Not only the Vedic mantras, but by lovingly serving the deity, Krishna agrees to reside in that form. And when the deity is not served lovingly or pleasingly, then He doesn't reside in that form. That is the difference between an idol and a deity. Wherever there is loving service is a deity. Wherever there is something other than that, however it can look, but if it is not loving service, it's just an idol. So in most people, because love is absent in the heart, everything is idol worship. Because that's what it looks like. What is the meaning of loving a stone? Come on. So there are very popular ideas. The popular idea is that why are you wasting so much milk and ghee upon the stone? Why don't you use the milk and ghee to feed the actual gods who are hungry and thirsty on the streets? They are called Daridra Narayana. And if you ever use that phrase in front of Prabhupada, the lips will quiver and the face will become, really angry. The fist will clench and it will come. What is the meaning of Daridra Narayana? How can God? Daridra means poverty-stricken, standing in line at the unemployment office, hoping you will get something. So how can Narayana be Daridra? When the Brahma Samhita says, Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhir abhipalayanta lakshmi sahasrashata sambhrama sevyamanam. Hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis are so intent, so eager to serve Krishna. How can Narayana be Daridra? How can He be poverty-stricken? This idea of poverty-stricken gods roaming around is a concocted idea. It's a neo idea. It's not Vedic idea. And from that concocted idea came the phrase, Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. This is not in the Vedas. here the prachetas are showing us that this is not true. This aphorism is made up. There is nowhere in the Vedas that Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. That if you serve humankind, that is service to God. Actually, it is the other way around. Madhava Seva is Manava Seva. If you serve Krishna, that is the best service that you can perform for all humanity. The principle is yatha moola taror nishechanena tripyanti tat skanda bujhopashakha. If you water the root of a tree, all the branches, twigs, leaves, fruits, flowers, they get nourished completely. If you forget offering water to the root of the tree, but to expect that the tree will be healthy is silly. So actual Manava Seva is to serve Madhava. And he's not daridra, he's not poverty stricken. He is very compassionate. He says, Dīneshu vatsalaih. Dīna means really pathetic, fallen, pathetic. So it's not Narayana who's daridra or Dīna. It is the so-called, it is we, the jiva, who's Dīna. And the Dīneshu vatsala. Krishna likes to give his mercy to all the fallen conditioned souls. He gives his mercy to all the elevated souls as well, but he is very compassionate to the fallen souls. The only way to uplift fallen people is compassion. Because it is within compassion is the power for a person to feel uplifted, wanted, cared for, belonged, and loved. So Krishna is the source of all love. So he is particularly inclined towards the Dīna. Now Dīna does not necessarily only mean materially poor. Dīna also means spiritually poor, which by the way is every conditioned living entity. We're spiritually poor. For the spiritually poor conditioned souls, if there is even a semblance of service, without the real motivation as well, even that Krishna accepts. Krishna accepts even the minutest of gestures of service. By his accepting service, that service becomes meaningful. However, the grandiose service that is not done with even a trace of genuineness, if Krishna does not accept, then that grandiose is not considered service. So what becomes service is whether Krishna has accepted it or not. And just because one goes through the motions of it, it does not mean that Krishna is accepting it. Just because a plate is kept there, we ring a bell, recite a few mantra, it doesn't mean that Krishna is accepted. Krishna is not a machine. He is not bound by material laws, that I did something and now you're supposed to accept this. Krishna is bound by love. And within love is this whole verse of Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. It is described that Krishna is accessible by anybody and everybody. So he says, you can offer me one leaf, one flower, one fruit, and a little water, or a little water. So most people do only give Krishna one fruit and one flower. The rest of the bhoga they eat. Because Krishna said, had he said patrani, pushpani, phalani, then we would have given in plural, we would have given more. But Krishna says, give me only one fruit. But they forget that Krishna also says, if you don't offer before you eat, that you're a thief. Stena eva hi saha. Chapter 3, text 12. What it means is that Krishna is very easily pleased even with very simple, humble offerings. In that purport, Prabhupada describes that these are things that the poorest of the poor can also acquire. Getting a leaf, a fruit, a flower, you don't have to be a rich man. Even if you don't have access to any of this, if somebody can bring a little water for Krishna, Krishna accepts that water. Krishna says, I accept it. Ashnami prayatatmanaha. So that means Krishna is very eager to be loved and eager to love. So in that next line, Prabhupada says, Janardana accepts bhava. That's the phrase, bhavagrahi Janardana. Bhavagrahi. Just as a devotee is saragrahi. Saragrahi means takes the essence. So a person can come and glorify this or complain about that, whatever it is. A devotee knows what is the essence and take the essence of it. There are many persons who flatter. Oh, you're like this, you're like that, or like this, you're like that. Beyond all the flattery, the devotee knows to pick out the essence of the feelings behind whatever is spoken. So we come to the spiritual master or we come in front of Krishna and we recite our prayers, self-made prayers. And we know in those self-made prayers, there is a lot of concoction. There is also a lot of improper bhava in it. These are prayers, but we mix up things. We're not clear in what we say to Krishna. We say something, we ask for something, we are very compassionate. We don't understand compassion really properly. We say you're very merciful. We don't understand mercy also really properly. We say things, but we feel satisfied because Krishna within the heart is accepting the sara, the essence of it. All right, he's come. We were talking of who comes to Krishna. A lot of people come. Krishna says that there are 4 categories of people who come to me. This morning, Jai Jagannath Prabhu and I, we felt that there are actually 5 categories. We're not saying that Krishna is wrong. This is just the humor part. Who are we to correct Krishna? But we feel that there are 5 categories. Artho, Arthyarthir, Jigyasu and crazy. The one is in distress, the one who needs money, one who's inquisitive, one who's search for knowledge, one who's really crazy. Anyway. So what happens is, we offer all these prayers, and they don't mean much. They're also not coming from necessarily the core of the heart. They're coming because of circumstance. The circumstance calls for a particular prayer, a particular calling upon. But regardless of all of this, the point is not that we can only offer a prayer when we are very genuine. That's not the point here. The point is we should constantly offer prayers to Krishna, wherever we are, whatever is the state of our condition. What is important is that Krishna accepts them because he knows how to draw the essence from whatever we have said. For a person who is not a devotee of Krishna, who's not actively cultivating service to Krishna, they may use very choice words to praise Krishna. And they're all considered like insults. On the other hand, a devotee may insult Krishna, but Krishna accepts that as very loving gestures. Because Krishna accepts love. So lovingly, devotees can even insult Krishna. They can say things, but it is taken as very loving exchanges. When Advaita Acharya invited Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda for lunch, both of them were sat next to each other, were seated next to each other, and Advaita Acharya was serving Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as he was serving Lord Nityananda was complaining, this is not okay, that is not okay, what is this, what kind of rice is this? This is loving exchange. They have a particular rasa between the two. So Advaita Acharya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to eat, and then he said in return back to Lord Nityananda, we don't know who to serve, how to serve you, because we don't know your gotra. We don't know which family tradition you belong to. Basically, it's a glorification, that you're transcendental, you don't belong to any seminal lineage. They say, we don't know. You're an avadhuta. We don't know we don't know your lineage, so we cannot authentically conclude whether you're a Brahmana or a Kshatriya, or we cannot conclude. Usually if you say that to someone, it's an insult. Like Prabhupada would say, we hear often on the altar, when someone asks you, what's your identity? You should be able to recite names of your forefathers all the way up to 7 generations. And if you're not able to, then especially for marriages, they'll say, not proper alliance. They don't know their family lineage. This is kulahina, or a broken lineage. This is not proper. So Advaita Acharya said to Lord Nityananda, we don't know. We don't know what your lineage is. And so Lord Nityananda ate, and this conversation goes between them. There are other details to it. Lord Nityananda, and he said, what kind of offering is this? And he threw the rice on the floor. One grain of rice touched Advaita Acharya, and Advaita Acharya stood up in ecstasy and started dancing. So seemingly they were insulting each other, but they were just really glorifying each other. On the other hand, there might be someone who may speak nice things about Krishna, but their heart is vacant. They have no relationship, no real respect for Krishna. They say nice words because it should sound nice. And others should say, nice speech, nice speech. For that, Krishna feels insulted. So what's important is the feelings with which we express to Krishna. And even if the feelings are somewhere deeply hidden in the heart, Krishna knows how to extract it because he is bhavagrahi. He accepts it. He accepts the feelings wherever there is some genuineness. Now, genuine feelings are nurtured under the guidance of a spiritual master. Because just because I am genuinely feeling like serving Krishna, whimsical service is not accepted. Krishna is tricky. He accepts the sara, the essence of what we are doing, but that is nourished when it is under a guidance of a spiritual master. For that hidden good intention, for that hidden love to fully manifest, one needs to serve Krishna under the guidance of a spiritual master. Otherwise, that bhakti, which is not guided by Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, according to Rupa Goswami, is a nuisance. It says, Utpata eva kalpate. Utpata means nuisance. It just creates unnecessary anarchy. So there is room for initiative, and that initiative should be nurtured and guided by a spiritual master. So arcā-vigraha Prabhupada narrates a story of a Brahmana, South Indian Brahmana. This is from the Nectar of Devotion. There was a Brahmana in South India, very poor. But he'd like to serve Krishna nicely. So in his mind, he would do the entire abhishek and shringar, means alankar or decoration of the deity of Krishna, everything in his mind. Because he didn't have the right paraphernalia. He couldn't afford them. So in his mind, he would offer the deities nice abhishek with milk and yogurt and honey and fruit juices, nice silken cloth, golden ornaments, everything offered in golden pots, etc. So his meditation was very deep, very genuine. One day he decided to offer sweet rice. And in his mind, he gathered the rice, the milk, the sugar, the saffron, all the required ingredients for sweet rice, and was boiling the rice and milk. He was cooking it. And when he was ready to offer, in his mind, he picturized, oh, now I'm about to offer this to Krishna. Let me check, I hope it's not too hot, that it won't scorch Krishna's tongue. And so he touched it with his finger. And immediately, his finger got burnt and his meditation broke. And he saw that his finger was scorched. All from his meditation. Parallelly in Vaikuntha, Krishna was accepting his offering. Oh, he's serving me so nicely. I would like him to be here. And a Vaikuntha Vimana was sent. So, a little footnote on this is not that one fine day he just decided to offer sweet rice and the Vaikuntha Vimana came. This was his daily meditation. This is how he served Krishna. So that's the point, that he developed it very nicely, and his absorption became more and more intense with that practice. Thankfully for us, we don't have to worry really to get into that detail, because we have active service. Otherwise, I'm afraid, Prabhu, can you do this service? Boy, Prabhuji, I'm right now offering sweet rice. Can you come back later? There's practical service for us. We can get the same benefit that the poor Brahmana got from the practical services that we have. The point here is Krishna is accessible regardless of what material condition that we are in. Yesterday he was talking about circumstances. Very nice class. Very, very touching. Circumstances. So regardless of circumstances, one can serve Krishna. One should serve Krishna. And Krishna makes himself accessible. So arcā-vigraha is the medium within matter for us to contact the fully spiritual form of Krishna. It is fully spiritual, although made out of material elements, fully spiritual form. And for that fully spiritual form, he reciprocates or responds according to what one or how one approaches him. I don't know the devotee, one of Iskcon devotees. I don't know the name, but I heard from someone that this was their nice prayer and meditation. That devotee offered prayer when he came in front of the deity of Krishna. I said, "My dear Krishna, I often fall into this trap of thinking that I am the conscious being and you are stone. Actually, you are the conscious being and I am the stone-hearted. So I'm offering my respects to you. Kindly accept them." We have a misconception of who's the stone. We are the stones. So we don't get moved by so much mercy also that we have received. The heart doesn't move. Tadashmasaram hridayam batendam. Navikriyeta yatha netre jalam gatra ruheshu harshaha. That heart is ashmasharam, is made of stone, or Prabhupada says steel-framed heart. That despite tons of mercy, despite all sorts of reciprocation, that heart does not become soft. We are the stone-hearted jivas because we have received unlimited mercy, and we continue to receive unlimited mercy from Krishna, but somehow it just doesn't budge. So we have to come to the all-merciful Krishna to continue to feel doses of mercy. And he makes himself available through the arcā-vigraha. Some thoughts or comments? You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I do. Just trying to get out of the sun here. Prabhu, I just had two questions on the topic of deity worship. How does one actually cultivate the experience or the realization of the deity form as being non-different, as you're explaining, fully spiritual? I was just wondering if there's any other literatures or anything that you might recommend as far as gaining more of that. It seems like it's based on faith. So how does one develop the faith of that principle?
Well, faith is nourished by hearing. Faith is not nourished by reading book on deity worship. Because in that also is, you have to do this mudra, that mantra. So faith is nourished from hearing. You know that pastime of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? He had taken his disciples for yatra to Vrindavan. And he would speak in the evening. And some of his disciples were not in class. So when he was speaking, they arrived. So he asked him, "Where were you?" He said, "Guru Maharaj, we went to the different temples to take darshan of the deities of Krishna." So he asked them, "What did you see? Black stone? What will you see anyway? Black stone." He said, "You see Krishna through the process of hearing. You see Krishna through the process of hearing." And then he gave like this heavy lecture after that. So faith is nurtured by hearing. When we hear in the vibrations that are in the mode of ignorance, and our heart is in the mode of ignorance, our faith for ignorance develops. This is 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. When our heart is in the mode of passion, we hear vibrations from the mode of passion, our faith in passion increases. Similarly for goodness. So, developing a mode of goodness lifestyle allows for us to hear the messages that enhance our faith about Krishna as the deity form. That's one. Second is unto whom we do what we do. Because we are residing in the temple, our services are all centered around the temple. Our life is centered around the deity of Krishna. So, Kishore, Kishori. Just thinking about them. Yad anusmaryate kāle. Just by thinking about them in due course of time. Sva-buddhyābhadra-randhana. That by that devotion of thinking about, this is Kishore Kishori's paraphernalia, this is Kishore Kishori's temple, this is Kishore Kishori's ashram, this is Kishore Kishori's devotees, whatever. When it is centered like that, abhadra-randhana, all that inauspiciousness, the blocks that don't nourish our faith are removed. Not necessary one has to become an expert at deity worship per se.
Thank you. I had another question.
Sure.
I was appreciating the explanation of how Krishna accepts the arcā-vigraha form, either through the invocation of an acharya or through the worship of one with prema or the loving devotion. I was just hoping you could clarify. It seems a little contradictory because if the acharya invokes the deity, you said that if it's not worshipped with love and devotion, the deity is not manifest, it's an idol. But I was wondering, in the case of a deity being invoked by an acharya, or Krishna being invoked, even if that deity is not being properly worshipped, wouldn't it remain, the deity remains fully spiritual, correct?
Yeah, that was the point. The deity remains spiritual, but no one can access that aspect of the deity. It's not that Krishna just sitting in stone waiting. There are stories of that too. The point is not the technicality of Acharya invited and then the Krishna is sitting in the stone and then what happens then. That's not the point I was making. The essence of the point was that Krishna manifests himself when there is loving devotional service. And in the absence of that, Krishna doesn't have to manifest himself. For example, if you take a nice form of Krishna, nicely carved, and you keep it in your shelf, anyone keeps them in their shelf, it's not that he's stuck in a shelf calling out, hey, Haribol, do something. He's not obliged to. That was the point. Because in homes, the deities are invited, but they're not installed in the way they're installed at a temple. I was making that distinction. But still, one can feel full potency if they serve properly. The same Radha Krishna they can keep in, someone else can keep in their shelf. Many people, when you enter their house, they have Krishna. But that doesn't mean Krishna standing there. Like that. That was the meaning.
Thank you.
Glenn Prabhu?
How does this inform or compare to our service to our Guru?
Huh?
To service to Guru.
Say the whole question again if you don't mind.
How does the discussion that we just had, that you shared, your points about deity worship, how does that relate to, or is that how we also can serve our Guru?
Let me make sure I understand the question. By serving the deity, are we serving our Guru? Is that the question?
No, that's interesting too, but I was just thinking about service to Guru.
Service to Guru?
Yes.
Yeah. What about that?
And I thought perhaps that the way that we, those points that you were talking about, what's in our heart and how we serve the deities may also be a way that we can serve our Guru.
The deity is not Guru. The deity of Krishna is not Guru, and Guru is not the deity of Krishna. They're individual. Yet our service is to both of them. And the actual mood is, I am being given the service to serve the deity as an assistance to my spiritual master. My spiritual master has very mercifully engaged me in this service. So I'm assisting. So before we enter the altar, at least those who have the specific service of deity worship, before we enter the altar, out there, outside, we offer our obeisances. We offer our obeisances to the spiritual master, and there is a prayer. My dear spiritual master, you are very merciful. Although I am not qualified or I have not fully eligible, you are very kind, and you are engaging me in assisting you in doing this service. In that mood, we enter the altar. This is my spiritual master's service, and he has engaged me on his behalf. So I'm assisting, I'm bringing this, I'm bringing that, and I'm serving. So we're not on the altar, we're down here, and we may be doing other things, but the mood is still the same. Am I in the neighborhood of what you were talking?
Yes, and it also made me think of verse 3 of the Mangalati.
Śrī-vigraha rādhana nityam. Exactly. Shringara tanmandira marjana yuktasya bhaktamscha. He is the one who's engaging the disciples or the devotees in all of these activities. Correct. Prabhupada would say, we've heard this many times, the spiritual master gives you Śrī-vigraha. And if you have no affection for the Guru, and if you don't serve Krishna properly in the right mood, then after the Guru goes away, Śrī-vigraha becomes Galagraha. Galagraha means dead weight around the neck. Like, why do I have to do this? Why do you have to offer so many times? Why? That's called galagraha. Heavy dead stone around the neck, meaning it's a burden. Okay, someone else? Okay, anyone this side? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai.